Welcome to episode number 350 of Get Paid for Your Pad. And today I'm here with a STR Legends mastermind member. His name is Colin Holowachuk. Did I say it right?
Holowachuk.
Holowachuk. And he's the founder of Vamanosco Vacation Rentals out of Tulum in Mexico. So Colin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jasper. Really glad to be here. It's been it's an honor. I've been following this podcast and following you for a long time. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's a bit of a milestone, 350 episodes. So, really excited to have you on the show because we had a call on the mastermind a couple of weeks ago, and you showed the way that you personalize the experience for your guests. And I would say that's the most sophisticated and intelligent way of doing that, what I have seen since I started hosting this podcast. So I thought, I got to get Colin on and talk about this. So the topic for today is, how do you personalize the experience for the guest before, during, and after their stay? Excited
Thanks,
to
man.
get into it.
Yeah, me too.
Sweet, man. So let's start at the beginning, right? We kind of have like three parts. The first part is you need to get information from your guests in order to know how to personalize that experience. So can you tell us your process for gathering that information before the stay?
Yeah, I think that the most important part about being able to personalize anything is getting to know your audience and getting to know your guest, your customer, or what have you. And there's really, only a couple ways we get to know our guests. And without them being in our property or without them visiting our website and being able to track them, what we do is we ask every one of our guests to register. So that does a couple things. One is we not only get the information from the person who booked, we get the information from everybody who's staying. And so what we do is we encourage them, just like a hotel, to register all guests. And, registration is kind of like a familiar term to them. So they're accepting to it. And in reality, we're just asking some questions about themselves, we're trying to gather information about three things. One is the purpose of their stay, their priorities, and their preferences. And their priorities and preferences could be around what type of activities do they enjoy doing? What type of local attractions are they coming for? Preferences could be, what are some of the products and services that they're interested in terms of things that you can offer them during their stay, like additional cleaning or an airport transport, or anything you can do as a host or a property manager to help enhance their stay. And one of the biggest things you're going to be asking them is what the purpose of their stay is.
Yeah, and it, I think this is really important as the short-term rental industry is kind of developing. I think the people who really understand how to optimize that experience, right? Because I think a lot of people start to realize over the last couple of years that we're not renting out spaces, right? It's really we're creating experiences for people. So having that information is really crucial to create that experience. So you use what do you use to get that information, the registration? Is it Typeform?
Yeah, we use a couple different tools. Typeform is probably the most commonly used. It's a survey platform, and it creates a really nice interface. Like you said, unless you have like a castle or a tree house, it's really hard to be unique. And one of the things that, we can do as hosts and property managers is to cater that experience to be unique for that specific guest and for their group. One of the primary things that Typeform or any type of questionnaire or survey software does is it gives us the opportunity to understand, is this a romantic getaway for a couple? Is this a family trip with children under 10? Is this a girls' getaway for celebrating a 40th birthday? And by knowing that, you can cater the experience around your 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, accommodations to cater that experience to meet their expectations and to exceed them, because now you know a little more about their purpose, right? You know a little more about, the romantic, the couple on a romantic weekend is certainly not going to be looking for the same type of amenities or experience or activities that, the family with small children are looking for, right? So to get to know that guest and get to know their purpose, priorities, and preferences before they arrive, you can start catering the experience and your communications around specifically their interests and what's most relevant to them.
Got it. Are there any concerns around the Airbnb terms of service? They have all these documents where they tell you what you can do and what you can't do. And I mean, from my experience, it's really easy to breach those rules. I remember I was always advocating people putting emoticons in the titles, because I thought it makes it stand out, makes it looks nice. And then suddenly someone pointed out like, hey, that's actually not allowed, right? But that's something that I've never seen Airbnb, really enforce that, right? But as we all know, especially now, Domino recently got removed from Airbnb, right? So that's a pretty sizable company that they removed because they were messing around with the profiles, right? They were putting like fake names on there and stuff like that. So. And also recently, a friend of mine, Dana out of Denver, she messaged on Twitter that Airbnb had canceled all her bookings and deactivated all her listings out of nowhere. She had no idea where that's coming from. So, and Airbnb has been known to do that, not just recently, but even going back to 2014. I interviewed a guy called Kelly Kampen. He won an award for like the best host in Thailand, and suddenly Airbnb just deactivated his listing. So that's something that people are concerned about, right? So what are your thoughts on that? Like, is it okay to have a Google form or a type form to ask the guests for their information?
Well, I think there's two sides to that. There's probably a few sides to that. One is, there's a difference between having a rule and enforcing that rule. And like you said, the emoticons or asking your guests for their information, that's been in part of their terms and conditions for a long time. What we're seeing with Airbnb recently, I think, is a lot of messaging. They're going for their IPO pretty soon, so they're making sure that they're kind of like getting ahead of these fires, these questions that they're going to have to ask when IPO happens, and they're going to be asked things about, what are you doing about the party situation, the Airbnb party situation? What are you going to do about, these bad actors on your platform that are abusing the system and gaming the system, like some of the people that have been kicked off. And so I think a lot of the enforcement that they're doing is really just PR. With that said, though, one of the things that is written into their terms is you can ask a guest questions, you can ask them for ID, you can ask them for anything if your homeowners association, if your insurance, if your contract for your lease, if you have a legitimate reason for asking for it. So number one, we've had, thousands of guests. Every now and then, probably like, 1 in every 500, someone says, what is this? Why am I answering these questions? I just reply, hey, it's just a fun questionnaire. I like to get to know my guests so I can cater I be truthful and honest with them. I'm doing this to help you have a better stay. And if you are against that, if you are sensitive about your privacy, that's totally cool. I understand it's optional. If you want to skip any of the questions, that's fine. They're not required. But, if you're coming to my home, if you're going to be, staying at my place, it's kind of, my responsibility and for your safety to get to know who's staying at my place. And after kind of explaining that, I haven't had any guests really raise it as a problem or escalate it to Airbnb. I've had conversations with people at Airbnb, kind of preemptively, kind of saying, this is what I'm doing and this is why I'm doing it. And their feedback has been like, unless there's a guest like really complaining about it, then there's no reason that we're going to be, stepping in. So
Yeah.
I really feel that if we're doing things that are positive for the guest experience, that are going to enhance their trip, and we're not doing something that's gaming the system for our benefit, I really think that they're not going to be enforcing something that that is actually good for them.
Yeah, man, 100%, 100% agree. I think the things that Airbnb enforces, the rules that they enforce, is the things that they can get in trouble with as a company, right? So if you have like 50 apartments in downtown New York and you're putting fake profiles in your listings, stuff like that, that's the type of thing that they're going to go after. But like you said, you're just trying to make the experience better for the guests, right? As you said, who can be against that, right? So that's a really good explanation the way you laid it out. So thank you for making that clear. So let's dive into part two, right? So in part one, you get almost all the guests to fill it out. And what's really cool about that is not just the people that book, but you're also getting the information from the other people as well, right? The people that are coming as a group. So that's really cool. Second part is the actual experience. Like how do you use that information to curate a personal and unique experience for your guest?
One of the first things we do is we set up some email marketing. So before guests arrive, as typical, they get a couple emails to say, this is a check-in process, all that kind of stuff. But in addition to that, we also send an email that tells them about the local attractions, local activities, the property amenities that they've specified they're important to them. So we use our system, our email marketing system, to link up what they've told us is important and relevant to them. And that's the information they get. So if they say something like, we want to visit the local restaurants and local attraction ABC, and we want to go shopping, we're not going to tell them about, the stuff they're not interested in, the park and the hiking and stuff like that, because they're more interested in going to the local restaurants. So we cater the communications before they even come to say, hey, by the way, for each individual guest, we send an email to say, welcome, looking forward to your stay. Here's some things you might be interested in. And we highlight those items in the welcome email. In addition to that, we also find that it's an opportunity to increase our revenue. So they may not know that as a property manager, we offer, airport transportation, we offer grocery delivery, we offer, additional cleaning during their stay. By offering that and reminding them that we do have that, and that we're offering it because they've already expressed interest in that, we find that we get a lot more uptake, and we get, just the fact that we're only sending stuff that's relevant to them means that they're actually opening the email, they're reading through it, and they're clicking on the links. And, sometimes those links might be an article that, has nothing to do with us. We haven't written it, but it's, the top 10 things to do in whatever destination. And other times it's a link to our website where we actually explain our additional services and products that we can offer. And we see a lot more uptake on that. And from that, we're getting a lot more revenue per guest.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a little sense. That's so you start sending some of those emails before the guest even arrives.
Yeah. That's the way we kind of start to set their expectations and cater the experience around them, is we give them ideas around what they can do while they're in our property. So what that helps to do is it helps to kind of curate their experience. So there's a lot of things that they might not be interested in, might not have knowledge about, but they're interested in. And there's a lot of things that we as hosts or property managers, we kind of take it for granted. We know our neighborhood, we know our region, we know our property. And by understanding what's relevant to that guest, we can actually kind of enhance that stay, because we're reinforcing that we have the things that they're interested in. And hey, you said you're interested in, local restaurants. By the way, I really like this place and this place. If you're thinking about going for breakfast on Tuesdays, my favorite restaurant down the street, they got a great special. And, on Thursdays, the bar down the street over here, they got a great happy hour. You got to try 2-for-1, margaritas. And the fact that you're getting that specific around their specific interests, and it's so relevant, it shapes their itinerary for their stay around their interests. And the result is that their experience is way beyond anything that, is welcome my place, here's my accommodations, have fun finding your way around.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And what I love about your system is that it's so curated, because you mentioned, for example, Tuesday and Thursday. Now, those days are actually based on the check-in dates, right? So if somebody's staying like Friday to Monday, then the email that they will receive will be, hey, check out the happy hour on Saturday. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. The idea of this came from, I went on a cruise a few years ago, and every morning we go for breakfast, we come back, and, they make the beds and stuff like that. But on the bed, they left this itinerary, as a daily, what's going on in the ship, and this is the port you're going to, and these are the, activities and local things that you can check out while you're there. And every day it was kind of like a treat to look at this, itinerary and go, oh, here's all the options around what we can do, whether we're in the ship or at a destination. And I kind of thought, like, wouldn't that be cool as a guest staying in an Airbnb to get that? To get a curated kind of itinerary to say, here's a bunch of stuff that you said you're interested in. This is what's going on in our local, community, tomorrow or on the weekend or the next day. And our guests have really loved it, because, while you're during a stay, especially on a vacation, you're kind of like checked out, right? The whole idea of a vacation is to turn your brain off, forget about work, and relax. And what this allows the guest to do is not have to go and every day go to Google and go, things to do, or, what restaurant should I go to? You're actually delivering, an itinerary or a sample of some of the things that they can do, some of the things that they can experience, the activities, even the amenities of the property that they may not know about. It kind of gives them an idea, so they don't have to think about it. It's actually delivered to them. And because you've already asked, what's important to you, what's relevant, what kind of experience are you looking for, what's the purpose of your stay, you can cater that itinerary for each individual person. So it's very personalized.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we'll talk about the technology that goes into this, because I'm sure there's people listening now thinking, well, that sounds amazing, but I have no idea how to make that happen. But let's move to part 3. Right. So we've talked about the pre-stay part. We talked about the stay, the experience during the stay. Let's move to post-stay, because obviously you're getting all these email addresses through this process. And so now after the stay, you can follow up and send them some more emails, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what's really important about this in terms of gathering the information from all your guests. What's kind of unique about our opportunity as hosts and property managers is that we not only have the person who booked that experiences our product, that experiences our hospitality, but everyone in that accommodations, everyone in that group experiences it. So they're actually our customers, right? So by having their contact information, having their email address, by reminding them about their stay, reminding them about the experience they had, reminding them about the catered and curated itineraries, it sparks an emotional response around the experience they had. And by being able to message back to all these guests rather than just the person who booked, it gives us the opportunity to invite them back. And it's getting more and more important now as the platforms become more fragmented, and they start doing things that are a little more unpredictable. And we really have to start to realize that these are channels to get our first guests, our first customers, and they're channels for marketing. And once those customers are ours, once those guests actually experience our product, they're our customers. And we have the ability to remarket to them invite them and their friends and family back. And so what we do is we use that same information from their survey, from their registration, and we cater their invitation back around what's relevant and interesting to them. So, we might send an email to say, remember when you came, and hey, did you have a chance to check out this, that, or the other thing? These are the things that they've already expressed interest in. Now, we don't know if they actually went to that restaurant, they went to that happy hour, or they had breakfast at my favorite restaurant. But we can remind them that, we offered that information to them. And whether they actually experienced that, or we're reminding them that we, curated that suggestion for them, it sparks that memory. And I think especially now when people are itching to get out of their house and itching to travel, it's really, really relevant to spark those memories of a great time they had experiencing, what they did in our accommodations, right? And by doing that, that's going to open the door and open the kind of curiosity around, okay, when can I go back? And in a time when things are so uncertain and there's so much uncertainty around everybody's everyday life, one of the things that they can be certain about is, if I go back to Colin's accommodations, I know what kind of experience I'm going to have. I was already there. I already experienced it, already had a great time. I had a great weekend with my spouse, a romantic weekend, or I had a great time, me and the girls on a celebration for a birthday. It'd be great to go back there with another group of friends because I know what kind of experience I'm going to have. It takes the uncertainty out of that. So you're just reminding them that, you're there for them. This is the experience they had. And anytime they want, they can come back and they're certain to have the same kind of experience. And by the way, click here and book direct rather than go through Airbnb or one of the other platforms.
Do you also offer them another incentive to book direct, like a discount or something?
We've offered discounts. I think one of the advantages of knowing what's relevant to them is we can offer something unique, something like, if a lot of the restaurants that I work with in the area, we have relationships where they would get 20% off their bill, or they would get, special access to a VIP room, or, a discount on a tour or an attraction or something like that. I would rather give discounts to local vendors that I have a relationship with than a discount rate from my property, because they're already going to save if they're booking direct.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. And, you said a lot there, and I want to point out a couple of things. Number one is that email list that you have from gathering all those emails from the guests. That is a major asset, right? That, because no matter what happens, if Airbnb shuts down, if VRBO shuts down, if all these platforms suddenly shut down, you can still market to your past guests, right? That email list is yours. Nobody can take it from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a big asset. And what's great about it, like, you're building this asset, but at the same time, you're also improving the guest experience, right? So it's a win-win. It's a win for the guest. It's a win for you. And that's what I think is really incredible about the process that you have. Now, let's talk about the technology, because this all sounds really, really amazing. What do you need in order to set something like this up?
Well, like I said, we use Typeform to ask the guests a question. So that's our registration. We use that to gather the data, and then we use Zapier to connect that to our email marketing. And our email marketing, when I tell people about this and they go, oh my God, that must take a lot of work to customize every email around every guest and all their preferences and everything else like that, and personalize it. There's a lot of email providers out there that do something that's called dynamic content. So it's as simple as, if this guest said they're interested in local restaurants, in the email, include this clip, this piece of content around local restaurants. If they didn't say they're interested in it, then don't include it. And what's really nice about that is it takes a little while to set it up, but it's not complicated. It just takes time. So once it's set up and you have an email that has some dynamic content around the questions you're asking and the data you have, once that's created, once you have your template, it's automated. So when the email goes out, the email marketing software looks at that specific recipient's data. And if that data includes local restaurants, then the email automatically includes your clip that says, include this content if that data is there that they've said they're interested in local restaurants. You know, if you write something about local shopping, but that guest didn't state that they're interested in it, then that clip of dynamic content isn't going to be included in the email that's sent to them. So once you have it set up, it's all automated. The email software does that automatically. And it's not a, cutting edge or new technology. This is something that's being used in email marketing and e-commerce for a long time. And we've all experienced it when we get emails into our inbox, and we've, a standard email is like a shopping cart abandonment, right? So you go somewhere, you shop, you research. I do this all the time where I'm curious about the shipping costs. So I pick out all the stuff I want. I go to checkout to figure out, how much the shipping cost is, and then I leave. Sure enough, I'm going to get an email that says, hey, you left these items in your shopping cart. Come on back to buy them. And that's exactly what that is. We've all experienced it. And now we're just leveraging that technology for our guests.
And what's that email marketing system that you're using?
We use ActiveCampaign, but there's a lot of email software out there that uses it. MailChimp, Infusionsoft, there's a lot.
Yeah. So I've been using ActiveCampaign since, I don't know, 2014. If you're listening to this, if you're on my email list, the emails that you get from me are sent through ActiveCampaign. So we have Typeform, we have Zapier, which Zapier is a really interesting tool because it allows you to connect different pieces of software. We use Zapier to manage Legends, STR Profit Academy, Get Paid for Your Pet, all these things. We use a lot of Zapiers. I don't really understand it. We have our friend John, who's the tech person who does all that for us. But yeah, Zapier is a great tool. ActiveCampaign. So these are really only the three things that you need. And as you mentioned, the email software, there's all sorts of them. And we talk quite a bit about email marketing in the Short-Term Rental Profit Academy. And there I have training on how to use MailChimp, because I think MailChimp is a really good starting point. It's very simple, user-friendly, and it's very cheap as well. So for people who are just getting into this, and if you want to get a bit more advanced, then you can start looking into either ActiveCampaign or there's some other softwares that are more sophisticated. So yeah, it sounds simple. Typeform, Zapier, ActiveCampaign, and that's it.
Like I said, the upfront investment is stitching the things together, and it's not much programming or anything like that. It's kind of like drag and drop and filling out forms and stuff like that. But once you have that set up, the investment pays off long-term, because once you invest the time to have it set up and have it configured, then it's all automated. It's as simple as every time someone books a stay, then you have your autoresponder in your PMS, or at the beginning I was sending this just manually. But automatically 2 or 3 days before their stay, we usually send it about a week before their stay, so they have time for everybody to register. That email goes out automatically to say, click here to get all your guests to register. And once that process is initiated, then everything else is automated. So the upfront investment and time that you put into configuring your autoresponder, configuring your type form, and setting up your dynamic content, once it's done, it's all automated. So it makes it a lot simpler down the line. And the payoff is, you're catering the experience for these guests so that, it becomes a really big competitive advantage. They're going to be telling their friends and family about the great time they had at Jasper's place, not because it was an amazing property, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, like, every other condo down the street. It's because he catered the experience we had. He knew, what type of trip we were having, what the purpose of our trip was, what our priorities and preferences were, and that made the world of difference. So if you're gonna go to Barcelona, stay with Jasper, because that's the kind of experience he gives us. It's not around people looking for accommodations to sleep at. They're looking for an experience during their stay, and that's what our competitive advantage can be.
Awesome, man. I couldn't have said it better. And thanks for sharing all that. It's really inspiring. So I'm sure there's a lot of people listening right now who are extremely excited to look into this more. So your properties are in Tulum, which is in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. I was there a couple of years ago. Beautiful, beautiful area. If people want to go ahead and visit one of your places, where can they find you?
Best way to look me up is Vamanosco on Airbnb.
Vamanosco on Airbnb. Can you spell that?
VAMON. No, I can't.
All right, I'll do it for you. So it's VAMONOSCO.
That's right. Yeah. So it's an interesting name. Vamanos is let's go in Mexican, in Spanish. Vamanos is let's go in Spanish, and co is company. And it was kind of like one of those brainstorming evenings. What should I call my company, and that just came out and it stuck.
Yeah, I dig it. It's Vamanos. Sweet. I'm sure the Spanish speakers they probably got that right away. All right, so they can look you up on Airbnb. Do you have a website where people can find you as well, or?
Yeah, vamanos.com.
Vamanosco.com.
Yep.
Right. Awesome. All right, Colin. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this. Really appreciate you coming on the show here. I appreciate you sharing all your wisdom inside the STR Legends Mastermind. It's been really eye-opening. You're setting the bar. You're really setting the standard, I think, in terms of guest experience, but also email marketing. So, big thumbs up for you, man.
Thanks, man. It's an amazing group. I'm learning so much at it as well. There's I think everyone's learning so much from each other, because once you're at a certain level and once you have over that 30 properties, it seems like we're all so busy concentrating on our business. It gets kind of lonely. So to have a group that are at the same kind of stage and are experiencing some of the same things, but in a different region or a different industry, like leisure versus urban. It's so cool to be able to be in a group of people that you can learn so much off of.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. And let's we'll talk more in the coming weeks. We see each other pretty much every week on the mastermind call. Yeah. So, all right, man. Thanks for being in the show, and to the listeners, hope you enjoyed this episode number 350 of Get Paid for Your Pad. And of course, next week there will be another one. So, thank you for listening, and until next time.
Thanks, Jasper.